can tell me what this one is? Can you see it from the back? This thing? You sure? What if I tell you it's a modified USB stick? It's a data extraction device. It's a data extraction device. Can you hear me from the back? So, we have this, a bunch of other kit. Threat can come from anywhere. And in modern world, we had, I think in 2017, we had one of the Cyberheist Heist done with an IoT device connected to the network. Somebody infiltrated the network through that device. What does that tell you? Well, we have an increased amount of technology coming in. We have a struggle to keep up with technology. And more devices are getting connected. So, what I'm going to talk you through today is an approach that I've implemented to some of my customers, including Camelot, to actually protect your data. And the message I want to deliver across, transmit across, is that, first of all, security is everybody's job, everybody's problem. And second of all, as we all discussed today, is a cultural shift, it's a cultural change. So it's not just about the old security office in the ivory tower that throws control at the cool data scientist, but it's actually an interaction. So, a little bit about myself, my history, how things have changed, the new landscape, how we could imagine an ideal security world. How do we get there? A little bit a peek in the future, and then we wrap up with questions. So, a little bit about myself. I'm a CISO, interim CISO and CISO advisor. One of my clients is Camelot Group. I'm a public speaker. I'm associated with the Cloud Security Alliance, and we sponsor events, and I'm a director of events for the Cloud Security Alliance. So we do events to actually improve security in the cloud and to share that knowledge. And I'm helping organizations fight against cyber threats that are getting more and more common and more available. Could you tell me roughly how much tech kit would cost an individual? This one, that is full of this material. Have a guess.
What's in it?
So it's all this stuff, all hacking tool, all hardware hacking tool. That is just one way to penetrate. But just have a guess.
$20.
A little bit more.
50.
Bit more.
Hundreds.
Roughly. It's $250. Anybody can afford it. So we started from a casino perspective, from a industry perspective. We started brick and mortar. We started physical. So we're actually quite good at addressing those kind of physical problems. But then we moved from a physical world to an online world, to a digital world, to a mobile world, and then maybe what next? And we've seen some of the speculation today, but who knows what technology is going to tell us tomorrow. So what's the challenge in all this? Well, we have a lot of technology being thrown at the security office. And how do we address that? By making security everybody's problem, so that everybody will enforce. We have a technical issue.
Somebody
Hacked?
Just a crash.
Maybe if you just click it again.
I see.
No, it's not working. There's some.
Well, it's getting fixed. So we went from traditional to digital. Actually, let me ask you a question. what was your experience with the security officer? Was it easy? Was it hard?
Everything takes forever
Why?
because they don't understand what we're talking about.
Okay, that's the beginning. So they sit in the ivory tower and they don't talk to each other. So how do we fix that? How do we fix the traditional siloed problem?
I think you need to involve them right at the inception of a project,
Okay?
right at the absolute genesis.
Absolutely, yes. So we have the team talking together from a requirement perspective, from a testing perspective, from baking in security control in our data science. One of the best data transformation that I've been honored to be part of is when we actually sat in a room and baked in security inside the logic of the application, inside the logic of the game. By putting control, logical control, inside each field, understanding, not just throwing, okay, let's just encrypt the entire database set. How much is it going to cost? A lot. So let's try to be pragmatic. Let's work together. So again, security is everybody's problem, but if you make it hard, who would want to do it? If you make it boring, who want to do it? So one of the things, well, I'll show you in a while, but one of the things that I used a lot in my exercise with the various team are one simple, very simple game in the threat modeling exercise that is called escalation of privilege game. It's a card game where everybody's enticed and everybody's drawn into and throw cards at their own application, at their own game, so that they could break it. They put their security hat on, their hacker hat on, and they try to break their own game. While traditional security is, if I take you on traditional threat modeling, is a very boring exercise where everybody sits in a room and trying to think about, attack vector. They build complicated diagram about that. So that's a threat modeling exercise. It's a very boring, very complicated diagram where when you finish to draw it, you're probably so far off from your actual physical stuff that you're not going to secure it. You're going to focus on building that thing rather than securing your application. So with the power gamification, throwing card at your own application, you make security fun again. And the same applies to the privacy impact assessment, to the fraud modeling. You need to make it fun for people to actually be enticed so that they come to you as a security officer and ask you to do these kind of things. Actually, the EGR chapter is releasing the card game for the privacy impact assessment because it had so much success. So, we saw a little bit about the traditional role of a security person in a specific application, in a specific project. So as data scientists, you all know and you all have a broader view, right? You look at the data set as an entire organization and you have a broad view. So, the same applies to traditional security versus enterprise security. You approach a problem from two very different perspectives. So if you look at the picture on the top, you probably wouldn't be able to detect where that place is. But if you look at 10,000 mile view, you'll probably be able to detect that as a magic roundabout from Swindon. But that's exactly the perspective of a traditional security person, a traditional application security, versus an enterprise security person that looks at holistic view. And both of them are important. And both of them need to engage with you guys. So as we said, we start from the initial requirement definition, initial design, with an active engagement, with threat modeling, and remember to make threat modeling fun. And then we move to the testing work, where we actually to testing. Security testing doesn't need to be necessarily different from functional testing or any other form of testing. And then we do a feedback loop, and we're going to see in the DevOps world what kind of animal is DevOps. What's your experience with DevOps? Anybody knows what DevOps is? Anybody knows what DevOps is not? That's never came across. So DevOps is a nice little animal that lives in a cubicle with an operational person, a dev person, and they, generally speaking, don't talk to each other. They just look at them and it's like, I don't want to talk to you. And that's the traditional world. In the new world, they're being forced to live together. And then somebody from the security office has been dragged in that same cubicle and said, you need to talk to each other. And that's what DevOps is fundamentally. A transition, a smooth transition where people talking with each other, transition from a development into operation, and then something changed where the business comes down from the ivory tower and talks to the tech people and communicate what they want to achieve. Interact with dev, interact with ops, interact with the security. So they form this nice piece. And also remember to reward the program, the security effort for every individual. How much do you think a bug bounty program costs to an organization for a specific bug? Have a guess. Rough number? $1,000, $10,000, $50,000. Roughly between $3,000 and $5,000 for a public bug bounty. How much does it cost a free lunch? For a week of a lunch, if you entice people to actually detect their own bug, attack their own application, to capture the flag, attack each other out, and then maybe they win a crown, or they win a sticker, or they win a free lunch. How much does it cost a free lunch for a week? Maybe little, maybe less than 3,000. So when you move from traditional SecOps, DevSecOps, DEVSECOPS, so it's a big topic right now, into a more mature environment, you start, as you've seen, fitting automation in every of the individual step of the ops, from the security, from application, and compliance. So, presentation has been scrambled a little bit about, apologies for that, but if we pick a little bit behind the curtain of the future, we've seen today that there will be a number of tech being thrown at us, and we've seen that the security people are limited in resource, limited in time. So regardless of what the technology is or will be, how do we secure it? Again, by making security everybody's problem. By making dragging the security people to interact with you, to actually develop the application, develop your data model, identify each individual field that needs to be encrypted, not the whole database to get encrypted. Identify who should have access to what, doing our bug properly. Is the same old due diligence. It's nothing new, it's nothing different. And regardless of the technology, the problem will stay the same. It's a people problem. It's fundamentally a people problem. Would you agree? Disagree? It's a people problem, right? Cool. So in conclusion, we roughly saw the evolution of the world when we went from physical to digital. We saw challenges, well, briefly challenges. We had a peak of an ideal world where, let's imagine security is perfect, we had infinite time and infinite resource, and then we had to go back to our own world where we have limited resources in the security offices, limited time and limited people, and how to make security everybody's problem. And then we saw a little bit in the future, and we saw that the problem is still the same. Anyway, considering we're being cut short a little bit in time, and with a scramble in the presentation, do you have any question? You have an interest in security. What's your consideration of security?
And access to raw data, access to data warehouses, of course, an important security matter. But yes.
How do you segregate the access? How do you segregate? How can you say who has access to what? As we were talking before, you probably will have analysts that will need access to the majority of people, the majority of information.
Well, the tricky part to include security people, security colleagues, is that there is such a team, but they're not involved, or then it doesn't become very natural to include them in any real way. Yeah, and that's kind of the truth of this.
People, why? They're just normal people.
That's the problem. when we're super people.
Yeah, but that's wrong. I don't understand why in this industry it needs to be so different. I mean, we have normal people trying to fix a problem for the same organization. Ultimately, if the organization fails to deliver a product, security fails. Right?
I think it's the lack of real experts in this field working for the companies, because we live in a digital world, yes. So we need to move with pace. We need to change. So, for example, a lot of us are doing migrations to the cloud, right? Mm-hmm. Huge security consideration.
Yes.
The expertise, the demand of the security expert is huge, right? Somebody who actually understands what they're doing to enable us successfully to migrate and remove the barriers and set up everything so it works. That's number one. Number two is we need to experiment a lot. I mean, with different tools. So we need to do POCs. We need to bring 25 different providers within a quarter, right?
Yeah.
Security needs to look at them. They need to evaluate what's the threat, etc., etc. It's
Let me ask,
completely
why?
different demands.
Why security needs to get involved to that extent? So if you have a limited number of people, a limited number of resources, and you have individuals that probably are much more involved with the evaluation of a third party, why can't they be the herald of security? Why can't they be an extended function of security? So that security is not just the security office, but security is in every department.
Well, it's the same as with the businesses centralizing the data teams, decentralizing them, centralizing them again.
It's an old story, I agree. It's an old shift, but even the cloud is from, you have a data center, then you have the cloud, then we're going to have another data center in the cloud, and so on and so forth. So we're going to have phases. Ultimately, in order to solve the scarcity of people and problem, you have to distribute that knowledge, right?
So what does the good look like?
The good looks like where everybody interacts, where you do, for example, a security assessment of a vendor and you do 80% yourself, and then you post challenge to the security office. When you have a security office as an advisory service for the various project, but the project do the legwork, not the legwork, but the project do a little bit of security. So you have the security people training other department so that they can do their due diligence.
So what you're saying, for example, if some of us run teams and we have dev operations, we would want dev operations to be trained in the assessing of the security impacts.
Yeah.
And then the CI office just setting up the framework in terms of like what are the great guardrails that we operate within.
Yeah, suggestion, framework, controls, help other people to enable security in their application. If you have a dev team, they probably know better how to put controls around if you don't push them to actually deliver too fast. Everybody wants to do a good job. And fundamentally what security is doing things right. Any other question? Everybody's liable.
Well, no one then. No?
Ultimately, the organization is liable. Ultimately, the organization is liable. If there is a breach, there is a breach. The organization loses. It's not just one department that loses. It's an overarching failure of the organization.
What's the tendency? So, for example, like in data, we see convergence of things, right? Shall we be thinking that we're already wearing multiple hats,
Yeah.
right? So you're suggesting that we are putting a security hat on as well, just because the technology and the things are evolving so much that this is another area that we need to make our business and we need to get the skin in the game and those sort of things.
Not entirely a security either, half that, because of course everybody stretches across, so you can't expect a developer to be everything, right? You can't expect everybody to be everything for everyone.
I think that's the expectation these days, unicorn people, right?
Yeah, but you can't have unicorn people, or they will cost so much money, but you will lose them very, very frequently, because there will be somebody else that will pay eventually much more. So a little bit of security is going to take you 80% in advance. Even patching, even doing patching right will make you so far more advanced than other 80% of the company. I've seen organizations not doing patching, having Windows 7 exposed on the web, not patched, or not having one of the recent hacks was a database exposed over the web without password. That's just security 101. That's not just super expert, complicated doing security. It's just logical things. So it's just giving people time to actually do things right and enabling them, transferring that knowledge so it doesn't become the security office as a funnel, as a choking point, but that everybody gets involved in security. And then security comes in, the security person comes in to solve the complicated question, or to, for example, create a framework or a standard. But it tells the standard to the project and to the organization, it just doesn't throw the standard on the people. So it becomes a collaborative approach. That the dev, the operational people, the data scientists can challenge the standard. If we say encrypt everything, you ask the security person why. Is it logical? Tell me the field that I want to encrypt. Tell me what category of data do I want to encrypt, and then I'll apply. Right? It's logical.
Easy.
It's easy. But again, it's a people problem, it's a transformation problem, and not everybody gets it because we have old traditional people. Anyway, we have another 5 minutes. Any other question?
So best practices, right?
Yeah.
What's your top 3? You've mentioned one of them in terms of maybe taking people for lunches, the ones that are finding the bugs, yes?
Yeah.
Maybe a security audit could be another one. What's your top 3 most impactful things that we should take away from today?
Games, gamification, makes things short, easy, fun. Making sure everybody interact with the security office and dragging them into the various projects. Making sure the security office is aware of the pipeline of projects so it can bring people in. If there are not enough people, there are not enough people, either of the organization, either of the two sides. So getting security involved at the very beginning of the pipeline.
I think that's the key.
Yeah.
That bit, and I think it's also kind of, we've got a tendency to treat it as if it's different from other parts of the organisation. And exactly as you say, right, so it's kind of like, if you've got a big pipeline of projects, you go through them with one of the kind of directors and it's like, oh, we don't have enough developers, so then they'll start to prioritise the projects, and that's quite a standard thing that happens, right? So, we can't do this 6, we're not going to do 3. Whereas it's quite rare for somebody to say, we don't have enough security personnel, exactly as you say, right? So, but why should it be different? Security developers, right? They're just resources within a business, so yeah.
Because it's not revenue generating.
But that's
It's risk based.
Yeah, but again, I think that's what's wrong. Rather than saying, well, actually, we've got a project, one of the first things we have to do is understand you know, what's the end goal? What do we want to do for the customer? Who has to do the customer facing step? What before? Who has to do the development? What before? And again, security should just be a standard part of that process. And you know, a lot of stuff. And I think your point about is being everyone's responsibility, right? That's not saying that everybody needs to be, you know, a security expert. That's saying that a bit like we all do RG now, where every single person should have an understanding of, okay, you know, as a head of data, I might not be an IT security expert, I might deal with a front-end data team or a SQL analyst team, but I should broadly know that bit that we're doing is quite standard and safe because it's in our environment, it's an internal dashboard, no big issue, compared with that team just asked me to create a new application. It's going to take a load of calls from our website. Shit, that's a bit risky. I better go and ask about that. So it's like
that's when you engage the security officer.
So like,
that's when you say, you know what, this team is actually asking me to give access to the entire database. Why? And that's about it. That's enough. Asking, why would you do that? Because that's the beginning of a security discussion. And then you inform the security office, and they can enforce. And ultimately, the data owner is the one that's going to tell you, yes, these kind of people will need to have access to this kind of data. And then you can challenge why. But you people are the one closer to the data. So if there is not that level of collaboration, not that level of challenge, if somebody just goes out and buy a product and give access to that product, what the security office can do?
I think we're quite paranoid, so we wouldn't just give our data. Like if you ask us to give our data to third party,
that's good.
Unlikely.
Being paranoid, being a little bit paranoid takes us so far down the line and makes security so much better, or our job so much better. Anyway. Any other question?
Isn't the cloud really safer?
The cloud is not safe as such, but if I jump to one of the slides that I skipped in the interest of time. Stepping in the cloud, understanding where you're getting into. So understanding what the cloud provider is responsible for and understanding what you as a customer are responsible in the cloud. Your data security, yes, they will encrypt their database. What's the chance of somebody hacking an analyst account and getting access to that data? What that encryption through and through of the cloud provider is going to give you? Nothing. So, doing a pragmatic approach to security, segmenting, doing access control, access review, disabling account is going to take you so much far off than actually having a control across the provider. So, there is no unicorn. Cloud is not either secure or not secure. It's just another data center where some responsibility is being delegated to a cloud provider. Yes, they're going to do better due diligence than you. Yes, if you choose a SaaS service, they will do that level of responsibility. But access control, access review, user management still remain in the organization accountability. And that's the key. Access to the data and segmentation of the access and reviewing the access is fundamentally the key. And then there are patents. The cloud provider are giving us standard way to do things for free. There is no such a thing as a free lunch, we've seen it. But for this stuff, there is. And if you send me an email, I'll send you some of this one to actually start doing cloud right, but using stuff that our cloud provider are making us available. And with the Cloud Security Alliance, we're doing a lot of other patents. We interact with the cloud provider to actually make cloud easy. So you can template, and then you can take that template and tailor it to you so that it's easy to implement and secure. It's fundamentally just doing things logically, what's right. Security is nothing else than actually doing things right.
Okay, I think we'll have to bring it to a close there because we're very willing. But thank you, Francesco.
Thank you very much.